So we welcome Umang, Sumit, Nitin and Vikash on stage, please. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. This is Umang Chauhan. I am part of NPCI Merchant Solutions team, and we have our panel with us. So I would start with Mr. Nitin Sethi. He is part of Adani Digital Labs. Then we have Mr. Sumit Agarwal. He is part of Make My Trip. He manages the entire fintech piece there. We have Mr. Vikash Jalan. He is part of Paytm business, travel and transit. And we have Mr. Jayesh Shetty, who is part of Thomascook, Forex card business. I welcome all of the panelists. A very warm welcome to all of you. So the topic we today have is travel tech, a game changer for the travel industry. So as far as travel is concerned, I would like to go back to the days when during my summer vacation, if we had to buy a train ticket, me and my father would visit the railway counter at 8 a.m. and we would be able to get the ticket by around 3 to 4 p.m. That was the time when almost half of the day we would go for one single ticket. Then we gradually moved to a booking agent, and the only technology we used to have was calling him up and getting the tickets booked. And it stayed there for a while, but now the time has come where my father himself can book a ticket in flat 3 minutes from his mobile phone. So that is what travel tech is all about. So that's the massive change in tourism which the technology has brought, is what we are going to discuss over here. Using basically tech to plan your trips is travel tech. Use of IT in travel, tourism and hospitality, that is what travel tech is. You see now we have AI and chatbots for answering customer queries, FAQs, 24/7 customer support is there. So that is what travel tech is all about. Even before planning your trip, you can actually visit that place virtually by VRs and augmented realities. That is what travel has now been up to. What we are trying to achieve with this discussion is, I have made it in two parts. One is B2C, one is B2B. In B2C, we would like to understand that how travel has enhanced, what is the enhanced role of travel when it comes to travelers, how are the bookings happening, and second, how the payments happening. So my first question would be around post-COVID session. Post-COVID, now we see influx of travelers from tier 2 and beyond cities. And they are not only doing domestic, but international trips. So my question would be to Nitin, you, that because you are managing a lot of airports which are, of course, tier 1 and tier 2. So how do you see the trend post-COVID has been, as far as, and how travel, how technology has enhanced in this?
Sure. First of all, thank you very much for having me here. Let me take a minute first introduce what Adani Digital Labs is and how we, Adani is representing this forum. So Adani Digital Labs has been formed 18 months back to digitize all consumer businesses for Adani Group. Adani is the largest private airport operator. We manage 7 airports in India, including Mumbai, wherein close to 85 million passengers fly from our airports. Now, quickly jump on to how the pre-COVID and COVID scenario is. Overall, we are close to 75-80% bounce back on the travel numbers. And most of us will touch base on that. But an international is still bleak for obvious reasons. But if you look at the spread, and I have my cheat sheet so I don't go wrong, I've been told that this session has been recorded, and YouTube, everything remains there. So let me use the numbers wisely. So on data points, let's say cash, and let's make it conversational, because there are not many folks here, so we can actually have a conversation. Post-COVID, we still see 32.6% cash usage on our airports. We thought that India has gone through the digital revolution and the whole transformation piece has been done. But 1 in every 3 customers is still using cash. The second spread, which is a credit card, debit card, is close to 40+% to be precise. Then, of course, the forex and currency exchange, we see 16.4, and UPI, the Bharat brand ambassador, is still at 5.6%. Now, this is on an average basis. If I just go to airport, you'll be very, very surprised that the numbers which is happening on Mumbai are very different from numbers which are happening in Lucknow. That is the power of diversification which we have in our country. Let me take another. So cash for F&B in smaller airports. Any guesses? 80% plus. I got this number verified 3 times. I said, boss, something is not right. Get the POS data right, get the mapping right. Is it a pre-COVID number? But that's the number as of yesterday. Though with a lot of government initiatives, with Digi Yatra coming in, with the whole touchless experience on airports which is getting enabled, and of course with players, all of us sitting here, we will try our bet, having a great loyalty program for our consumers, having a more customer-centric programs, self-service, but we still need to have that penetration going. It's just not about payments, whether it's about Wise payment, it's about credit, it's BNP. I think it's everything put together. We still need to work very, very hard to change the number spread from the cash to credit card and credit card to the UPI. That's my initial thing, and of course I'll add.
Thank you, Nitin, for those numbers. We are still yet to grasp that, because we thought that after post-COVID, the payments are almost contactless, and especially at places like airport, where we think the people who are visiting are more credit card and debit card users. So we should definitely work towards that. Now, my next question is to Vikash, who manages the travel and transit for Paytm. So Nitin gave us an idea about how technology has helped in the payment side. Can you give us what is the enhanced role of technology in travel booking? What changes you have seen pre and post COVID? How is Paytm Pay playing a role there?
Hello. Yeah, thanks, Umang. So I think Nitin definitely brought up a very interesting perspective, but I'll give you a slightly different twist to it from an OTA perspective as to how do we see the entire travel industry changing, right? So as you would know, and I will take you 2 years back, that when the COVID lockdown happened, right? So at that point of time, obviously everything was shut, but there was a whole lot of migration that was happening around the country, right? People were moving back to their hometowns, people were moving back to wherever their base locations were and all that. And we saw that play out very interestingly for us at that point of time was, and obviously we always had this thought in our mind, but it became very, very evident when this phenomenon happened, was that, what is the power? So obviously I look after the travel business at Paytm, and Paytm is ubiquitous with, payments and everything. And what we started realizing that obviously payments is the most common use case for any person who was going into the digital journey. For tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities, Paytm was the main app of, that was probably one of the first apps that they had from digital journey perspective. And they started realizing, because offline bookings were closed, and there was all the travel agents had either ramped up their businesses or closed down their businesses, or they were just not available. So they started figuring out that, okay, how do I make a transaction? And everybody had to move back. Obviously, there was a supply constraint. There were trains which were closing down. Flights was obviously off. But they were still figuring out what are the best ways of doing it, whether it's just bus, trains, or any other mode. So interestingly, the spike in tier 2, tier 3 cities at that point of time during the COVID made us realize that since they had this app accessible to them, through which they were able to make their transactions very, very seamlessly. So I think the point here is that, and that change has not gone back, in the sense that they have continued to use those transactions on our platform. Obviously, IRCTC had made it mandatory for people to always make a booking, and there were no offline bookings happening as well. So that also gave their huge bump into the numbers. Interestingly, I don't know if you know, but IRCTC did during COVID. I mean, once the thing started cooling off, 130-40% of their pre-COVID numbers in online, or even higher. Right? Yes. So their online share had gone sky high, obviously because the offline was closed. So it was kind of a forced thing that happened. But what it led to was people using technology to book their tickets, and that gave them access, and that's what trend is continuing. And I think that's the power that we see all these consumer internet, consumer-facing apps is, to make the technology accessible to people. So, and that's the role that we have been playing, and we see that not fading away very, very easily. And other thing that also happened was UPI penetration, thanks to you guys. So I mean, there was this whole thing. So what happened was a combination of this accessibility, UPI, all that being there. It just grew very, very, very fast. For my platform, the numbers are like 35-40%, which happens on UPI. And if I take trains, that number is even higher. It is like 60% transactions that happen on UPI. So it is very, very interesting that, so the combination of these two things led to the adoption of travel tech as a consumer-facing app that we see today.
Okay. I would like to add on what he said, not from maybe what I've experienced at my current assignment of something which I've done in my previous lives at Indigo. So I've witnessed the whole pandemic at Indigo. I was leading the digital transformation with 60 Digital, and suddenly one day there was a lockdown and millions and millions tickets got cancelled. There was no regulation. Nobody knew what needs to be done. OTA was clueless. Airports were clueless. Airlines primarily on the consumer, and no airline could actually refund the amount in one go to the consumer directly, because you'll shut shop. And 3-4 data points again. I love data-oriented perspectives. So a web check-in which was close to 45-50% pre-COVID, just when the things resumed, it was 95%. A seat attachment rate or a meal attachment rate when the meal presumed, which was again 1 in 3 consumers used to opt in. Suddenly on direct to channels, we saw close to 70-75%. And the direct market share for a lot of these airlines have gone up in that time, because for self-service, for an answer without any ambiguity from the brand, it was a direct channel which demonstrated that grip. And all that is now resulting into the constant behavior. So the consumer, what he said is absolutely right. The consumer is not going back.
Right.
They are waiting for more and more,
So
convenience-driven
technology adoption, which could have taken years,
absolutely,
in a very short period of time.
And we see that trend even now at airports. people now paying more online, of course, we're seeing upward trends.
Mhm. Yeah, yes. Sure. Thank you. Thank you. Sumit, would you like to add? Because you manage one of the prominent OTAs.
Sure. First and foremost, thank you very much, Umang and GFF, for inviting me to this panel with these eminent colleagues. Let me just take your question back, wherein you are saying that post-pandemic, there is a lot of tier 2 aspirational travelers who would want to make maybe an international trip, and then how is travel tech or maybe payments tech helping that, right? So the way we look at it, I think travel tech can play a critical role at 3 different junctures of travel, which is before travel, during booking and travel, and maybe after travel. And at all these junctures, tech is coming in a very, very big way, right? So we are investing significantly behind before travel, whether it is in terms of content, whether it is in terms of search being voice-based. If you are a Hindi consumer, and if you want to travel to Dubai, can you just say that mujhe Dubai jana hai, right? Or the entire funnel being vernacular, or the entire package being a DIY kind of package, right? So there's a lot of tech which comes before travel. There is a tech which comes during travel, right? So during travel, why don't we simplify the lives of consumers? I mean, as Nitin basically mentioned, that maybe 95% of consumers are doing a web check-in today. And as travel tech players, it is our responsibility to ensure that when they're booking their travel ticket, can we just ensure that the web check-in happens in a single click, right? Or when they're checking in a hotel, why do they need to stand at the reception, right? Can they just upload their documents and the web check-in is done? When they are in a foreign land and they're in some kind of trouble, let us say that they are sort of a currency, can we provide them assistance, right? So all of these will help in increasing customer confidence. And maybe post-travel, can we provide them an ability to maybe share memories, share photographs, ratings, reviews, right? So they are the various places, whereas travel tech partner, we are adding a lot of value, and we hope that this will help in bringing a lot more consumers into the travel domain.
Thank you. Thank you. Jayesh, would you like to add?
Yeah, so I just kind of add to what Sumit has said. I'm representing an organization which is pretty much unique in the sense that it's largely a brick and mortar organization which has over a period of time kind of evolved into having its tech aspect of it built. So Thomascook is one of the largest integrated travel companies in the country, right? But principally it's always been a brick and mortar organization with large branches. I think the point that all of us have made so far, and if I were to take a key word, it's behavior, right? Whether it's about how cash is being used over other forms, whether it's about how they want to travel, which is destinations that they want to travel. So the behavior has changed. We all saw during COVID, everyone putting a Maldives picture, right? That sound like, because that's was the only place that was available. So the behavior was also in some senses replicating that side of the business. We saw post demonetization, the whole aspect of how non-cash transactions really took off. So behavior is critical for us to be able to kind of move any form of tech going forward. Now, what is it that helps you push that behavior is the simplified method with which you can actually push any technology. The minute you make technology difficult, cumbersome for the individual, you won't see that kind of adoption. And in that sense, just taking that entire journey, which is nicely put by Sumit, which is pre, during, and post, pre-travel, fundamentally, customers are now looking for assistance, right? Where are things that have opened up? What are the places where now you can get quickly visa? Can I actually travel to certain destinations? Are there any changes in terms of restrictions? And all of these, if you are now able to put to the consumer a more simplified, easier way, which is one-click available information that you need, that helps that consumer there. During the travel, clearly, you still have certain countries which are still not very open to the idea of bringing in passengers from outside, but can you make their entire journey a little more contactless, which means that, which is where, airports, we have seen a lot of airports across the globe which are now moving into biometric, which means that you don't need to touch, feel anything. You do a biometric and you run through. I think that process simplifies a lot of things. And I'm again going back to social media because we saw a lot of these posts come through wherein people are actually putting photographs of long queues where they're waiting to actually do check-in and check-outs. I think that, if you simplify on the travel side, makes huge difference for a consumer to actually operate. And the last part is, while he's on the travel, while he spoke about post-travel, we also are one of the largest Forex players within the country. And Forex has interestingly also seen evolution in terms of how you pay. From initially being, those Amex travel checks, to the evolution of actually saying cash, to now moving into cards and potentially moving into digital cards and maybe even push to account. Now, all of these transitions is what is also helping a customer make payments for their travel, or when they are on travel, that much more easier. And I think that evolution is fundamentally down to the point of behavior. So we need to push behavior, and the only way to push behavior is through tech. Simplified tech.
Thank you.
On the behavior bit, another interesting thing that we started realizing, and all of us might have gone through it, that there is, and good thing that Jayesh brought it up, and also Sumit highlighted pre, during, and post. Post-booking, people have started realizing what are the other things that people need to be cautious about, right? Especially during COVID. Like, there was a lot of these products that started getting sold additionally, whether it is insurance, whether it is refund policies, whether it is things like that, because people had, like, once bitten, twice shy. So they have, like, they went through that cycle of what happened during that time, and how they need that comfort, and everybody is now doing their own bit in making sure that the money is secure, the refund policies are sorted, the insurance products, there is an uptick in insurance products attaches that we used to see earlier. And the behavior is also started appreciating the fact that it cannot be always a risk-taking situation. We have to be slightly more informed about what we are doing, and if technology can help in achieving those things, I think that is what the focus is.
So there are a lot many cross-sell opportunities for you now to, yes. So to this B2C, what we can say to summarize this is that simplification of technology is what is required. Consumer behavior has changed, is changing, and COVID has been a good enabler in that. And the simplification is what is required for more adoption of technology in travel. Thank you. So now I have my next question. We spoke about B2C. Now I want to talk about what happens behind the scene for the players where B2B travel is happening, and who are the big enablers like GDS, which was launched in last century. And today the industry is still heavily dependent on it for its billing, for its itinerary thing. And with new age payment solutions like tokenization. So I would like to understand that how is the industry upgrading itself? Sumit, if you can throw some light on that.
All right, sure. Let's spend maybe 10 seconds understanding what is GDS. Not many may really know. While at times we end up, so GDS is basically the system. There are 3 large GDS globally, and maybe a couple of more, who have connected with maybe thousands of airlines, right? And any kind of booking search that you do today, lakhs and lakhs of offline travel agents and all the online searches that you do on all the app, right? It is basically the GDS that powers that, right? Which means that it is a large body. It's a private body. I mean, as we speak, while I've spent 15 seconds, maybe GDS would have already served close to 1 million hits on its platform and have given the right kind of information globally, right, on various things. Now, a mammoth like that, to Umang's point, fair point, they do not move very fast. But they are coming up with systems like maybe NDC, which is the new distribution capability, right? So our dependence on GDS is definitely there. Anybody in the airline industry will be dependent on that. But it is in the right direction. Let me also go beyond. As an OTA, and as a large OTA, it is also a responsibility to give the right kind of innovation to our consumers and not be stuck with maybe what a GDS does, right? In a flight booking journey, everybody, whether it is an airline or it is an OTA, is trying to capture the entire value chain of the consumer. So while you're booking a flight ticket, You may want to eat food, you may want a particular seat, you may want XYZ. And this is what GDS and airlines provide as a combo and as a fair family, and we promote it heavily and say that you pay X and you'll get this, you pay Y, you'll get that. As an OTA, we go a step further and we say that can we unbundle it now, right? So a consumer may not be looking for that entire fair family while we will promote it to our consumers. But if your only worry is, I want to buy a ticket at the cheapest possible price, but I'm worried that in case I have to cancel, there is a penalty, right? So can I cover you for that? Can I give you some kind of assurance product and say that cancel for any reason and your money will be refunded? Or maybe if your another worry is that the price will keep on fluctuating. Can I give you a price lock or a fare lock as a feature, right? So you are browsing, you pay an X amount, you lock your price. If it goes down, you pay less. If it goes up, you pay more, right? Or why do you need to buy food while you are within the flight? Right? Can I buy you a food at the airport, you pick it up? I mean, we have Adani and others who are now managing all these airports in a very digital manner. Can we just type, you pick up your food and you go? Why do you need to carry your luggage while you're in the flight? Can we tie up with somebody and the luggage will get picked from your home and will get delivered via courier or via cargo, right? So the larger point that I'm trying to say is that travel tech, GDS is helping immensely the entire industry. But all the players, whether it is airline or OTA, is going beyond that for all kind of innovations.
So you mean to say that dependency on GDS is reducing?
I would say that GDS will always be there, but when it comes to innovation, yes, the dependency is reducing. By the way, before you pass it on, you had a very interesting take on tokenization. I missed that part. See, you basically said that tokenization is around the corner in 10 more days. I mean, all the saved cards will get deleted, right, which are non-tokenized. Now, over there, GDS does not play a role as far as the B2C commerce players like us are concerned. So we collect money from the consumer, and then we settle it with the GDS in a very offline-ish manner, right? That's a settlement process which is called PPS and stuff like that. So we become the ones who will be responsible for tokenization. As we speak, we have already tokenized more than 80-85% of our saved card base, right, of our regular travelers. I mean, there was an article by Visa which said that more than 100, and that's dated, that's almost 2 months old, which said that more than 100 million tokens have been created in India. There are only 76 million cards, which means that maybe as we speak, there are already a couple of tokens against every card, right, on an average. So GDS doesn't have a role to play on that, right? And it is our responsibility, our owners, we are the token requesters, and we ensure that that seamless journey is given to the consumer.
So GDS, I guess, will play a larger role when a booking is happening directly through the airline portal. Over there, GDS is also involved in the billing.
No, again, there the airline is responsible because they are the merchant. See, please understand the responsibility of tokenization lies with the merchant or its payment processor. So so therefore, it's never the GDS which is going to look at it. Technically, I mean, for the lack of a better example, GDS would probably tokenize Make My Trip for me because we are the direct consumer, but it doesn't because that system of payment is very different. So it's the consumer and the person who's actually taking the details of the consumer that is responsible for the tokenization of the card or the details of the card. So you know, just adding to what Sumit has said about tokenization, it's a very interesting space because I believe that that's again a technology which India has really done really phenomenally well on. The principles there, we all saw the teething issues that we have given the mammoth number of merchants that we have within the ecosystem, and therefore I think that's again another evolution that has happened across the board, that merchants like, say, a smaller merchant who has an online presence may not have the bandwidth to be able to kind of tokenize themselves, and therefore are working with players like, say, a Razorpay, Avenues, and so on and so forth, who have the capability of doing this on a large scale. And therefore, you just take that service as a plug-and-play model, but make sure that you are able to then align yourself to the guidelines that are there. Again, the guideline has changed over a period of time. Earlier, sometime back, it was about recurring payments. So anyone who comes to, and you know, that's again down to the kind of merchants that you would see. A Make My Trip will actually see more reason in the erstwhile setup where it was about recurring payments. that they would need to do it because a customer would actually come very often and buy an airline ticket with you, right? He could be traveling every 2 or 3 months, twice a month as well. But traditional players like us, which are largely looking at package stores, right? You would probably travel twice a year, but you would also buy other allied services. But principally, you were talking about recurring payments. Now that changed very quickly to say, irrespective of whether it is recurring or not, you need to tokenize the payment, the details. Now that changed in terms of the scope of people that were going to now come under the gamut of transactions to be validated. But again, there, coming from a forex space, the ecosystem actually says all transactions that are originating and culminating in India need to be tokenized, which fundamentally means that forex cards, which are largely cross-border payment services, are actually, you can't use those cards in India for payments, right? Therefore, they don't need to be tokenized. And therefore, coming from the travel side of the business, anyone who's actually taking an Indian card, a forex prepaid card, fundamentally when he travels abroad, he doesn't have to worry about tokenization with those merchants. Because the interesting leg of tokenization is it's not just the consumer who needs to be comfortable because his bank needs to manage it for them,
The merchant
but it's also the
accepting
merchant who needs to be equally on board and needs to have that service onboarded. Therefore, a forex card services kind of is kept out of this gamut because neither is the transaction going to originate or culminate in India. So I think that's where the tokenization is an interesting one from the travel side of payment side of the business.
Sure, sure. Thank you. Do we have any questions from audience on regulatory requirement, new age payment solution?
Let me plant a question to my fellow panelist. The travel tech a game changer, right? Treat me as a consumer here on this table. And when I'm looking at things when I'm traveling on a corporate travel as a one product. I really don't care where the ticket come from, who manages ABC or GDS or whomsoever. And when I'm traveling with my family, I'm looking at unbundled, tailor-made experience. And a lot of technology, whether it's Cleartrip, a company which invested, Adani, Make My Trip, Paytm, Yatra, everybody comes in and do their share of bet. And consumers buy for the convenience. What is that one common element in game-changing, futuristic, forward-looking technology trend and that convenience? What we need to do as digital leaders, future leaders, to carry this transformation? Paytm.
I can get started, and I really like the way how Nitin excluded himself from this question by asking that question. So I don't think the answer is like a simple answer. It's a combination of multiple things that has to work in unison to make that happen. Obviously, we talked about B2C side, which is the consumer side. We also talked about airline side and all that. I think these all technologies have to come together to make it happen, right? So when we were talking about GDSs, and sorry, I will expand it a little bit, because GDS's role was to help distribute airline content, right? And what was happening was that all the airlines used to give different kind of feeds and all that, and GDS said there is the value that I can come in and I can make it standardized for an end consumer who can take that data. So now, but what it led to is that it led to building a lot of middlemen in that way, that led to airlines shelling out a lot of money for distribution to these companies, and that's where we said, the regulation comes in and says that, okay, we can disintermediate that a little bit, and we say that, okay, IATA came up with saying that do this NDC, which is NDC is nothing but LCC. It's not a technology, it's a framework where it says that this is a standard protocol based on which you can interact with each other and build that. If that happens, then so that is one part of it, which is how the distribution of content happens. And distribution of content means that you can unbundle, to your point earlier. You are able to the flexibility is completely in airlines' hand. They can give you very, very customized offers. They can give you very, very customized content that you're looking for, unbundling it and all that together. And that will be distributed through OTAs. And then on the OTA side, as folks were earlier saying, that you have to continue simplifying the funnel for the user, where they are able to make the best choices by either making it one-click things or making it very, very simpler funnel. Again, that unbundled set of services will come and consumed by the consumers, right? So I think this has to be. It cannot be just one thing. It has to be the entire ecosystem that needs to work together on all these aspects. And see, every travel industry is different in the sense an airline has its own challenges, and when you talk about a bus business is absolutely different. The kind of challenges, and of course I did not touch upon payments because we already talked about, because tokenization will take care of it itself. Everybody will ultimately tokenize, and that will simplify the process.
So,
train business is absolutely different. So on and so forth. So every business will have their own challenges to make it a game changer for themselves.
Sorry. So, when we were talking prior to this conversation, one of the things that came out very clearly was that there is no one single individual that can get up and say, I can deliver complete. When we speak of airports, airport says, hey, look, I am just a pathway for somebody to travel. But the real guys who need to deliver is the airline, right? Airline says, look, I have done a great job of getting the consumer. It's the airport which is causing problems in terms of logistics. OTAs and travel companies like us will say, look, we don't own any of this, whether it's the inventory or otherwise, right? It's actually the tickets are airlines, hotels are somebody else's. And therefore, the uniqueness of travel as a category, and therefore, I think we don't give it as much credit as we deserve, is that travel has already integrated a fundamentally large product wherein it's not one single product, it's multiple products that are integrated to give you one service. And therefore, when you look at how was your travel, that principal question that one asks, how was your travel? The answer when you give as a consumer, you actually in your mind have gone through hotel check, airline check, my service to and fro check, and finally receiving home with memories check. And in all of this, you've actually, interacted with multiple other players. So I think there is element of it, but I think there is more that can be done in that space. The question is, how much is each individual stakeholder willing to work with the other to say, you know what, I have this solution, but can you walk a little more with me to be able to build that extra mile for us? Once that happens, I think that's far more fruitful. Right now, I think personally, there is still a transactional conversation that happens with most of them in terms of, say, an airline saying how much inventory will you sell, hotels say how much will you book, I'll give you a value, and so on and so forth. Maybe on the payment side, there's another element of it. Airport says, look, I'm no more interested in traffic. You figure out how you get it. As long as there is some element of transitional value that you create between the two, that's where you will see the oomph factor, which you're looking for as a consumer.
You said it absolutely right. Right now, the journey of these 15 so-called touch points, the 10 touch points has been digitized, whether it's booking a air ticket, booking a cab, booking a hotel, right? But in between 5, none of the Indian airports have fully digitized. That you talked about how much time to the gate, which belt, very basic. Can I get a guaranteed cab? Can I check whether my card work on the lounge or not, right? All that is still not been done. Not even a single player has done it. And that's where I think the ecosystem needs to come together and do it. Whether
Collaboration is the key word.
Absolutely.
All the stakeholders, all the ecosystem players will have to come together right from the point when a person starts thinking about travel, then booking, making payments, actually taking the travel and coming back and sharing the memories. All the stakeholders involved have to work together. And now we have seen that the tech has actually made the travel very, very convenient. People have now stay connected all the time. The language barriers have been broken because of the technological advancements, and which collectively gives a personalized, unforgettable experience to the customer. And with the enhancement of travel, I am just wondering that what the next chapter is going to be and what's in the store for us. And whatever it is, undoubtedly it's going to be brilliant for all of us. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah, thank you so much for doing this with us. While they take the group photograph, if there are any questions in the audience, we have just time for two. Any questions, please, to the panel? There's one there.
Come on. I'm not taking that.
This, okay.
Thank you. Hey, my name is Adnan, but I'm from Munich Re. Quite an interesting session. Thank you for that. Is it better now? Yeah. So my name is Adnan, but I'm from Munich Re, a reinsurer. I have an incident to share. Last time when I was traveling from Bangalore to Bombay, so there was this little kid which was sitting on the middle seat, and the mother of the kid was on the aisle seat, right? And there was an in-flight magazine. That kid actually took that in-flight magazine out, and while he was looking at the picture, he was trying to zoom it. And he was wondering that why is it not zooming in? He was quite perplexed. So that is when I got to know that even I spoke to her mother, and she said that, she actually has an iPad back at home. And I could at least understand that the way digitalization is happening, be it across travel or the other industries, it is now in the DNA of everyone, right? Now, my question is slightly different from this. I wanted to understand, while you talk about the travel tech perspective, while you talk about build versus buy, what do you think is the right strategy for you, and what parameters do you consider while you decide whether to build or buy, be it travel tech or something else related to this?
And sorry,
Thank you.
I had a link question. I actually wanted, a lot of fintechs who were very interested, and I wanted to ask, what do you guys feel that fintechs can play a role in that journey that you guys are looking at going forward? So whether it is you folks building it yourself or partnering with some of the fintechs, what role they can play is, I think that's the important.
I think on the convenience front, fintech is a backbone. There is not even a single consumer journey which can be done without a simplified fintech platform or a solution. I think with what you guys are going to do with the credit card tokenization is going to really change the game. Look at the number of debit cards and the credit cards, it's disproportionate. If we balance that out, we have at least 10, 15, 20 unicorns right here. Maybe 5 of them are sitting in this room. So that's the role I think fintech going to play. Fintech going to merge the boundaries between Bharat and India. I think it's up to you guys.
I'll just quickly add, I think at Make My Trip, definitely fintech is at the core of our entire strategy. So much so that the youngest brand that we have launched is Trip Money, which is a fintech brand, and that is what I take care of. But then coming to your question specifically, I think when it comes to build versus buy, open to everything. I'm presuming that maybe we can have a meeting maybe immediately after this. If you have something very interesting, more than happy to explore. Thank you.
Handshake is better.
Yeah, just to add to that, actually, I also do it quite often. So the kid is not very surprising. Sometimes when I'm reading newspaper and my eyes are slightly getting old now, so I like, oh shit, the screen is so good. Sorry about that. The screen is so, I can do it so easily, but I'm not able to do it. So I think that behavioral change is happening, and that kid is just learning from that. So I don't think that kid is to be blamed, but I'm pretty sure we'll have digital pads on all the screens and on the airport, in the flight and everything, even digital newspapers for that matter. Coming back to build and buy, I don't know if you're talking about build and buy from an OTA perspective, whether you have to do that business or you take that supply through an aggregator, you own the consumer. I don't know if that was the context of that discussion. So obviously everybody starts off as an aggregator. Everybody starts off by taking supply from an intermediary, and then they slowly want to improve the margins or improve the experience. They start connecting directly with all these, whether it is airlines or any kind of business. That is bound to happen, natural progression. So I think that decision depends on at what stage in the game you are. If you are launching something very, very new, it will always make sense to do a buy and get the product market fit, try it out, and then see, okay, it makes sense for me to improve margins. I know the skill, I know the business, I can make those pipelines build now. So I think that would be the step, again, depending on what stage the business is. Coming to your question about fintech that you specifically asked, what roles will fintechs play? As you said, I think that I had already answered a little bit of it, what role Paytm plays in that, right? Because payments is the best acquisition channel for a consumer, and that is the most easiest thing for a consumer to do. And once you have that consumer on an app which is doing payments, they would ultimately latch into other use cases for them. So that is what we have seen. That is what we have seen. And the good thing about is it has worked from end to end. So companies like Paytm and other fintechs have started owning the consumers on their platform. And things like UPI and tokenization, all that makes the end journey of payments even more seamless. So I think it's a fantastic journey that is happening. And then if you are able to plug in with the content and things like NDC, GDS, all that is happening in the background, I think it's a wonderful thing to happen where the entire experience is only going to get better and better.
With that, gentlemen, we come to the end of the session.
Sure.
Yeah?
Sorry.
And you have something?
Sorry, I had
Yeah,
to
yeah.
say something.
Okay.
So I think I was just sharing with Sumit just a while back that I went out with my daughter recently. She's around 4. Right? So I went out with her and she suddenly said I wanted something, and I happened to just look at my pocket and say, "Beta, I don't have the wallet." And she smartly said, "But you have the phone." Right? So they're actually seeing you do transactions in a certain way, so they're actually much smarter than we think they are. To that point, we are a 100-year-old company. Thomascook is a 100-year-old company. And if you see in that large 100 years space, travel has evolved, tech has evolved, so has the fintech side of things. And I think personally, it's a question of what size and scale you are, and are you willing to invest that time to build it yourself, or you're happy to kind of go with somebody who's built it, tested it, and you want to go to the market as quickly as you want. In certain cases where regulatory elements are involved, you may want to go with somebody who's tried it, tested it, got certified, and therefore it's easier for you to adapt. But in places where you want to keep that entire ecosystem proprietary, then you may want to build it rather than relying on somebody else. So that's the answer to that point. And coming to the fintech side, like I said, 100-year-old company, we've evolved over a period of time. We're happy to kind of meet and speak to anybody who has a great idea for us.
So Jayesh,
Thank you.
next Forex card could be on UPI?
We want to. The evolution is something that we want to work with.
Sure,
Yeah?
sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen, and that was quite an enlightening session. A lot of interesting points came out of that, particularly what Vikash said about how every business within the travel business has its own challenges, and working in unison is the key. And Jayesh brought out the fact that behavior is fundamental and integral to create tech solutions in this space, and how working a little more with other stakeholders makes more sense in the next phase of innovation. And Sumit spoke about the pre, during, and post of travel, and how the entire spectrum can actually be brought together in an integrated manner. So thanks, gentlemen, for a wonderful session. Take care of yourself and all the best. Yeah?
Thank you, thank you. Thank you very much.
Our next session.